I might slip Lord Lockdown or Mike and a sneaky tenner to put it on the Friday request. We see a load of requests for Cheatahs coming through. Where could that have come from? No, I wouldn't, obviously. Not a tenner anyway. No.
Hey, everybody out there. Welcome back to another episode of the Audiophiles. It's Andy and John, as always. And yes, rock on, John. Rock on. And speaking of rocking on, you are going to offer up a song today for me to go off and listen to and for us to discuss thereafter, hopefully to the audience enjoyment. What have you got in store for me, sir?
So I have a little ditty from a band called Cheatahs.
All right.
And it's not spelt like the animal. It's Cheatahs.
Okay.
Like,
yes, Cheatahs. All right. The name of the track, I'm not familiar with this band at all, or this group or whatever they are. But no, not familiar with them. So
I was just looking at my notes, and backwards it's almost shat-ache, but it isn't. But it's an anagram of shat-ache, which is quite nice.
If you suffer from a shat-ache, you should definitely see a doctor.
Yeah. Yeah, so the track is called Su-Pra. S-U-P-R-A. Su-Pra.
These guys have all the tricks when it comes to spelling and phoneticism. All right, I will go off and give this a listen and let you know what I think. I'm loving these like digital waves. It's really, really cool. I love how they're building around those waves too. Yeah, this has got an interesting sound. These little respites they have for like half a second or maybe upwards of a second and a half. Yeah, it's fun because it gives you this break and then you wonder what's going to come next. Is it going to be what came before? Is it going to be something new? I also love this like lo-fi chugging. There's like underneath the digital swirling. Yeah, this is a lot of fun. I like it. If you close your eyes, you can really get kind of lost in all the sounds with how they've produced this and layered all of these seemingly disparate sounds, but they're working together. That you can't argue that. I'm loving this. Oh my goodness. It's weird. It started off and I liked it, but I didn't know how seriously I was gonna take it because of the like almost like 8-bit video game sounds that were happening. Um, but it really started to take on life as everything kind of was constructed and built. And halfway through the song, I realized, oh my God, I'm taking this quite seriously. I can like something whether I take it seriously or not. I can enjoy it for what it is. But yeah, this was something more than what I thought I was going to get when it started with just that very, I don't know, childlike sound that we got at the start there. But no, I am really into this, and I'm going to take it back because it was just building so thick. John has often talked about songs that end with drums that sort of sound like they're falling down a flight of steps, that sort of shambolic end. And that was like if you dropped your, I don't know, synthesizer or Casio down the the steps. Um, in its own way, right? A little disjointed and interesting. Regardless, I really enjoyed it. But a fun way to end a song that started off very fun and had so much in between. I really like how they built everything in that song. I also am falling in love with the palette of colors on this what I assume is the album cover. I'm sure John can help me out with that. But yeah, and a whole lot more hopefully. Tell me more about this band, when this sort of came out, um, who influenced this, all an array of different things I've got questions about. So let's get back to them. This one was kind of a surprise.
Mhm.
One, we don't have much going on in the way of vocals on this track, which is, fine. It's just, I guess because of the percentages we're working with here, I was kind of expecting there to be some lyrics at some point, but it was quite pleasant that there was just really some vocalizing going on at most. If I even, if, and I don't even know if that was an instrument, it just sounded like someone's voice at times kind of carrying out notes.
I just have to stop you there. I do have all the lyrics.
Yeah, you have all of them.
Yeah. So we'll run through that in a bit.
Yeah, because I couldn't even make out if they were words. It just sounded like it was definitely generated from someone's voice. But it also, I guess the nature of how it started, the first 15 seconds, I was like, there are songs that I don't take seriously that I really enjoy. And there are songs that I think are like really profound that I really enjoy, right? And this I thought was more of the latter and not the former, given the first 15 seconds and kind of the sounds they were playing with, right? But by the end of it, it became, I don't know, it took on a more mature kind of sound and approach than I thought the intro belied, right? So that was kind of the probably for me the best experience of having listened to this, or from the whatever timestamp it was, 3 minutes plus. But it starts off with these like swirling sounds of 8-bit digital delight. And while I may have sounded like I don't take that seriously, it doesn't mean I don't like it. You and I have talked at length about what marks we are for these silly sounds that are so like, Casio driven, or like the earliest sounds of like Nintendo game soundtracks.
Yeah.
And I really liked it. And then they basically use that to build for the lot of this first portion of the song, to build onto it, to create the song around that bit. So a quick jaunty little drum beat joins the mix shortly thereafter. There's a chugging, almost lo-fi sounding, distorted, I think it's guitar and bass, that accompany the song and kind of fill out this kind of section of what they've assembled here. And then just around the 1 minute mark, the music cuts out, save for a little sustained high pitched note before the music comes crashing back in without the digital sound from the beginning. Rather, it's replaced with this almost disjointed sounding phasing guitar, like and I really, really liked that. And at this point, I'm starting to like, okay, I'm taking the song a bit more seriously. I don't like it any less or more. It's just it's taken on a new kind of personality with me. So there's another cutout, which is a theme that they use a little bit for these very short little cuts and then reintroductions. There's another cutout, and then this more interesting guitar work that happens. And then another cutout, and odd vocalizing through some sort of effect, it sounded like, is being used over these chugging rhythms. And this progresses a bit, and there are almost these ethereal guitar bits peppered in as the song is given a little more air to breathe here without all that like frenetic and high frequency sound happening. Then after our old friend, the digital swirl, comes back like into the room like it never left, the sound becomes thicker as the drums begin to pick up in rolls and fervor. As the song continues for the last 30 or 40 seconds, it's reminding me of watching like a liquid reduce or thicken over heat. Kind of like a gravy takes its body as it sits over heat and it becomes dense and thick and fully formed. And that's what this bit of the song was doing. And that's when I was like, okay, I really, really love this. So the song begins to wind down, and we have something akin to the like, that this we've joked about, like the sound of drums falling down the steps to end a song. This was like as if someone was dropping that digital machine that was creating the sounds down the steps, because it was kind of disjointed and falling down to nothingness. And I thought that was kind of fun and clever, and it made me laugh given our recent conversations about how these songs choose to end and how these artists kind of tie a bow on things when they've got these kind of dense, thick, crazy sounds they're working with. Like, how do you end this? So I like this choice. When it started, it piqued my interest, but I wasn't sure how seriously I was going to take the song, given the kind of juvenile sound with these digital waves we had in the beginning, the circular sound. But as it progressed, it was essentially assembled like right before my ears. I found myself taking it far more seriously, and it won over my admiration in the end with this excellent, excellent layering and production work, like all of this panning around, and with the panning coming from side to side and the swirls happening around you in the music, you're almost kind of like just in a dryer on the tumble cycle, you know what I mean, with sound and everything. So I really, really enjoyed that. Hats off to them for how they built this whole thing and then how they edited and tied it up in the editing process. And completely divorced of the music, but you and I are also both marks for this. I fucking loved the artwork on this album cover, the one that's hanging behind you right now. There's something about the gradient, the way it like changes color as it pans, and these pinks and fuchsias and these sages and green. It's just so beautiful, man. I loved it. I was just staring at it, and the music allows you to fall into a visual trance as well. So here I am looking at this thing, and no, it was a great experience. I really, really enjoyed it, man.
Yeah. Just aside on that, I think I'm just thinking about it now. The sort of particularly the first shoegaze wave and a lot of the smaller bands and My Bloody Valentine as well. I think the artwork was really important because you're not really listening to the words, so you got something to stare at. And it's almost like a magic eye thing. It just pops into your head. You get it at
Yes.
one point.
Yes,
Yeah.
because whatever part of my brain is focusing on lyrics as I'm listening to music was free to just absorb the visual, and that's what I think and it also is a really beautiful piece of art. So I was like, oh,
Yeah.
this is
Cool. I'm glad you liked it. Yeah. Not a lot about these guys to be found, unfortunately, but I will give you what I got. So, Cheatahs, formed in London, and they went from 2009 to 2016, so a relatively short career. And they are described, shock horror, as shoegaze. Now, the band members they met in London, but they're from different countries. So you got Nathan Hewitt, vocals, guitar. He was from Edmonton, Canada.
You said
Dan Reed,
Edmonton,
yeah.
Edmonton, Alberta. Okay, yeah.
Dan Reed's from who plays the bass is from San Diego, which, as we all
Mm,
know, means whale vagina.
yeah.
From California.
Stay classy.
James Wignall, vocals, guitarist. I believe it was hard to track this one down, but I think he's from Leicester, the UK. It talks about Leicester in his youth and all that, so I think he's from there. And Mark Rowe, something like that, who plays drums. He's from Dresden, Germany.
Wow, they
Um,
really are from all over the map. That's
yeah,
interesting.
yeah. And they all play their instruments, but they all chip in with extra vocals and they all play the keyboards as well. So they've only released two albums. Their eponymous debut was in 2014, got decent reviews. And then the second album in 2015, Mythologies, is this one here. And the track is from said album, obviously. Um, the album itself, is quite interesting. So it scored 73 on Metacritic, and there were some decent reviews. There were some average ones as well. But Drowned in Sound said ultimately, Cheatahs haven't just upped the ante with Mythologies, they've created one of the year's most definitive albums.
Mm,
And All Music said on Mythologies, Cheatahs expand on the surreal, otherworldly aspects of their sound and seem to take abundant pleasure in wringing sweetness out of caustic, discordant noises.
yes.
Um, in the great tradition,
That's an excellent summation of what I just
it
experienced.
is.
So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And in the great tradition of indie bands, they released a good little number of EPs as well. I've got a couple of which um, I'll just show you them because the covers, again, what we talked about, are quite cool. So, classic indie
Uh,
sort of cover
for
with the
sure.
sea crashing onto the rocks. That was called Chord, but of course, it's spelled differently as well. If you can see back just down there, it's chord as in apple chord, perhaps,
Yeah.
or chord as in roared. And this one, Marasaki is called, and really pretty EP. They did make the marketing mistake of they labeled it with the Japanese symbol rather than, and there's nowhere in it that has the actual word, what the title is in Marasaki. So perhaps for the casual listener, not a great marketing move there, but it's nice anyway. This song, I'll tell you what, I'll whiz through the lyrics quickly. So the lyrics are, and it's basically two words, but he sings like almost as syllables, and that's all you hear. Those noises. He's singing Su-Pra, Fizz, E, O, Lo, J, Cow, Now, and then there's some variations on now and stuff. So supra physiological now, and as we all know, that pertains to having amounts generally found in the body, sorry, amounts of whatever substance that are greater than is normally found in the body. And it obviously comes from the Latin supra, meaning above, over, and beyond. So it's interesting. Their first album is very straight, sort of shoegazy type stuff. There's some bits in there that are sort of slightly different. But 2014, what the shoegaze wasn't really, at peak interest then. So there was slightly sort of a bit different to the norm. And you could hear their influences on that album and on this album. So like Swear Driver, My Bloody Valentine, obviously, but there's touches of early REM. There's definitely touches of Stereolab and Dinosaur Jr. as well. And what they did with all those influences, they developed their sound. And on this album, they kind of they introduced some synth, but they also tried to stretch through effects and technique, try to stretch the sound of guitars to see how far they could go to almost sound like synthesizers as well. And what they did, which I guess is a stereo lab there, and obviously where they came from, is they coupled it quite often with this sort of krautrock sort of focus on groove and beat, which makes it quite interesting. And that's where you get the drive from this song here. Doesn't always completely hit the mark, their songs, but when it does, it's really sweet. And you've got to bless them for trying.
Yeah.
Um, this song, I think, is just a real entertaining, howling, jittery, high octane belter. Um, I will say that there was a KEXP version of this available, and I was so excited. And I watched it, A bit disappointing.
Oh
They
no.
didn't. It was really interesting to see how they did some of the sound and that sort of breakdown a bit with the guitars all over the place. Watching him play that was really. It was his fingers all over the bloody fretboard,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it was almost hitting his own his fretting fingers with his pick because they were that close. It was really really cool to watch, but the sound of it for a first listen, it just wasn't as good as this. Obviously,
Okay.
that's where I guess the studio chicanery comes in and pays off. Because this is a kind of song, really, that it's in the details, isn't it? The way the sounds change, and as you said, that production value of the panning and
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
Um, Full blast on with a few speakers, it sounds awesome. So yeah, I thought this was something different, and that's about as much as I've got of the band.
What
Because it said until 2016. I guess they split up. They're not heard of from since. So that's it.
what would you say, like that album behind you that on which
Mm.
this features, like how many tracks are like good in your opinion?
I'd say I say a good 4 or 5.
A good four or five. That's a pretty good batting percentage
It
for,
is,
for
it
an
is.
album.
But
So okay.
they kind of already won me over because a couple of their EPs, that chord, the title track off that, I really, really liked. And Murasaki is a really good track as well. So I'd heard those first, and it kind of won me over. The debut album, I like. It's a bit samey, I have to say, and then this I like a lot more. But
Okay.
when I have it on, Su-Pra, I guess because it's also, for all intents and purposes, an instrumental, it stands out more, and it
Mm,
just it's this one. It's gonna go like a rocket. So it always becomes a highlight to me when I'm listening to the album.
fair. Well, that's interesting. I'd like to check out more from these guys.
There's a couple of songs I could give you actually. So yeah, um, that chord I think's a decent one. But yeah, I'll have a little think on it. We'll see
Yeah,
what
I
the
don't know
folks.
how much the audience is going to be like champing at the bit for more of this stuff because, like as
Okay.
you said, it already sounds like an obscure artist already. But I mean, for my interest, I'd really like to check them out. So
Well,
break it
perhaps
if
they'll
you got
check out
another
the
one or
stuff.
two.
Yeah.
Fair enough. You know that, guys?
I
Cool, man.
might slip Lord Lockdown or Mike and a sneaky tenner to put it on their Friday request. We see a load of requests for cheaters coming through. Where could that have come from? No, I wouldn't, obviously. Not a tenner anyway. No. Right. I should wrap things up and say thanks for
Okay.
listening to this, Andy.
Thanks for having
Folks
me.
out there, thanks so much for putting up with us, and this hopefully you enjoyed this track. Let us know what you think. You guys are familiar with Cheatahs and their output. Any other tracks we should be listening to, please give us a shout. Drop your comments. We'd love to hear from you. If you like this, hit the like button and be in an exclusive club. And if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing and joining this channel, and supporting us. We're moving slowly upwards. I was going to say something very rude then, but I stopped myself in time. So yeah, we're moving very slowly upwards, and we do appreciate all your support. That being said, thanks again so much for watching, and we'll see all of you in the next episode of the Audiophiles.
See you guys.